today we're going to be discussing the darkest card in the deck, which is the Seven of Discs. So you've got dark, dense vegetation in the background, which is dead, and we have 7 discs which are shaped rather like this upside down cup. So the principle of the shape is that we are not connected and receptive to our higher self. So we'll have a look at what symbology there is in the card. There isn't a great deal, and then we'll go on to look at how all this plays out in the spread. Okay, so here we have our close-up of the card, and as I indicated, there's not a massive amount on it. You've got the as we can see clearly, the dead vegetation in the background. Probably a bit more clearer now. You've got on the discs themselves, you've got images of Saturn and images of the bull of Taurus. So you've got the Taurus glyph down here and Saturn at the top there. This is quite different to the Rider-Waite version of the card, which is a man just harvesting the pentacles from the tree there. So that's more akin to the 8 of discs in the Thoth deck, under the title Prudence, whereby we've got this concept of working over a period of time to get your just reward. The 7 here in the Thoth deck is somewhat different to the Rider-Waite. With regards to its position on the Tree of Life, we'll just go to the 4 worlds here. Being in a suit of discs, it's in the 4th world, Asaya, and the 7 is down here, which is beg your pardon, it's here, which is Netzach. So quite far down on the Tree of Life and away from the central pillar here, we have the 7 Netzach, which is ruled by Venus. In terms of the actual decan of the card, we have the 3rd decan, which is 20 to 30 degrees of Taurus. So we got, which is ruled by Saturn. So this is the decanate, and then we have the Rider-Waite card there. So in terms of the astrology of the card, we've got Saturn, as we've mentioned previously, as being a rather slow moving, restricting planet, which is quite dense, and we've got Taurus, which is basically a fixed sign of the zodiac, and it's known to have its plodding qualities. It gets there in the end, but it's just, rather like the bull, it does its work. It's very practical, but it's very ploddy in its type of energy. Very different to something like the Knight of Wands, which is very fiery energy. So put the two together, where we've got Saturn, which is slow moving and dense and restricting, and we've got the ploddy nature of Taurus, and hence we've got we've got a lot of stagnation in this card. So I think that's why the definition is somewhat different to the Rider-Waite deck, even though they're both based on the same astrology. The number 7s are always difficult anyway. The coins, as I said, were arranged in the form of the geometric figure Rubens. Again, I'll provide the link on my website, which is the upside down cup. And there it is there. That's now Rubens, the figure is associated with Scorpio in Mars, and as I said, we've got Venus ruling the Sephiroth Netzach, and Mars and Venus clearly don't get on. Venus is in its detriment in Scorpio. So putting all these relationships in front of us, Mars, Venus, Scorpio, Saturn, we have a lot of conflict, and they all occur in the sign of Taurus, which is very slow moving. So the astrology doesn't really bear out for anything positive here. The dying vegetation in the background, well, since life depends on change, the background again shows this concept of inertia, death, stagnation in our life. Things are not moving. Also, that's quite dense, difficult to cut through. So it might have been something that's just maybe something in our life that we've put a lot of effort into, and then we've just left it sort of hanging there, and it's going to take a little bit of time to actually remove this inertia from our life and sort of cut it out or do something with it more useful. And we've got, if we look very closely, some reds and blues around the discs themselves. Now this represents faded masculine and feminine energy. We've got a brown of Taurus, which restricts the expression of these masculine and feminine energies there. We've got this olive thing here. So we've got a lack of like fertility in this card. That's what the masculine and feminine, that's where it comes into the restriction of the fertility, which is obvious when we just look at the background here. So quotes from Thoth, or the Book of Thoth. Mr. Crowley said, the number 7 Netsack has its customary enfeebling effect, which if we look at the 7 of Swords, futility, that's a very feeble card. It says labour itself is abandoned, everything is sunk into sloth. So it gives the impression that, again, we've done something and just left it, and it's not really serving anything useful in our life at the moment. And he also says extreme passivity. There is no effort here. Going on to the divinatory meaning. So it marks possibly a difficult period in our financial affairs, where we put a lot of effort into something and we've not really got the results that we wanted, and it's like we've just stopped trying. This card can also be associated with fear. This is related to Saturn, I think. And it's implying that we've got to break out of this like restrictive mindset of fear. If it's relating to something in a relationship setting, then it's something that's not really going to bear much fruit. So it's better to save your energy for something that's going to be productive for you. It can also mean being afraid of not getting anywhere, not being able to produce what you want to cultivate. So in terms of self-development, it's like hitting a speed bump. Things are really just not working for us when we get this card. It's sort of falling short from the return value of what we would expect for the amount we put in. If we're looking at reversals, we could say it's unable to face one's fears, or just continued effort into putting something in this, even though it's failed a long time ago and we just keep on trying and trying, but there's no use to that. Or it's just a failure just to deal with something which has just been sitting there just and doing nothing in our life for such a long time. So that's basically it in a nutshell. We'll just look at a few ways in which it relates to other cards and then finish up. Okay, on to the last part. If we have the 7 of Discs, which is comes out as the first card in a Celtic cross spread, then we're obviously dealing with some form of disappointment in our material world, which could either be job related, personal project, the way we see ourselves, but related to something materially that we have. And this obviously has the, as we talked about previously, a large sense of inertia with it, a lot of stagnation. Pairing it with other cards, with the 2 of Wands, that really is all about a Martian, Aryan type of energy going out into the world. We express ourselves. It may be that we've had a lot of energy and input into something. It hasn't yielded the results we expected. So we have a situation now where our energy is now been lost in the 7 of Discs, and it's just sat there doing nothing. The Eight of Cups, Indolence, as we've recently talked about, is a sense of laziness or boredom or being work shy. So it may be that something has failed because we haven't had the necessary inspiration to put the energy into it to succeed. So we'd need to look at if the Eight of Cups cross the Seven of Discs, then it's a lot of dark in our life, and we'd need to be looking at the reasons why by looking at the other cards. Rather different dynamic with the Four of Discs, because the Four of Discs is all about knowing your boundaries. So it may be that we've put a lot of effort into something and we almost got lost in that process of trying to make it work, that we've forgotten our boundaries. We've lost our sense of power. It's a situation, a job or something, or a task that just run away with us, and now it's just not yielding anything. So we really need to sort of take action and reclaim our power back, and maybe take some time out and think about what it is we really want, what's important to us. The love card, the Two of Cups, is quite different again, because it doesn't necessarily, it could mean one of a few things. It could be that our relationships are actually the positive thing that's keeping us going, and that would actually help us to overcome the difficulties inherent in the Seven. It doesn't necessarily mean that we feel that our relationship is failing, but if you are going to connect the two that way, then obviously there could be some financial joint venture in which has affected the relationship. As we know, relationships do have money troubles, and that's really what that would relate to. Seven of Wands which is Valor, is putting a lot of effort into something over a period of time. So again, this implies that on the Seven of Discs we've spent an awful lot of time trying to make something work, and it hasn't, and it's like, so we're really running out of energy. Seven of Swords is all about self-doubt, so it could be that self-doubt has caused something to fail. And for all Seven of Cups, it could be that this is a reaction to something that has gone wrong in our life that we're now going to access in some other areas. So for instance, when people have trouble at work, they one of the responses can be to drink a lot, and that's how those can be related. And probably just to finish off, we'll use the Four of Swords, which is all about taking time out. So that would be in a Celtic cross spread, if the Four of Swords crosses the Seven of Discs, that's telling us to take some time out from all the confusion that you see in the background here, to actually make time to recharge ourselves mentally, so we can come to our problem from a fresh perspective. So quite often taking time away from a problem actually helps, because the stagnation in the Seven does indicate that this is something that we have put a lot of effort into, and it's just now, let's say, it's all the energy is actually stagnated and is not really going anywhere. So sometimes just to mentally take a break from that and move away from it and come back to it would be a very positive thing to do. Okay, that gives you some idea of how the Seven of Discs aspects to other cards. So I think that's a wrap for this card, and I hope you all well. All the notes for this video are in the box below, as are links to other people that have interpreted this card also. Alright, take care of yourselves and hopefully see you again. Bye.